Like and subscribe for endless entertainment. Our story begins with Kino entering a kingdom for the first time. He goes over to a little one to introduce himself, but she seems surprised that he is speaking to her, so the traveler asks if there are any hotels that he can stay while visiting this country. The girl reveals that her family owns an inn and takes Kino to it, where he's then given a room to rest in. The next day we find the little one being awakened because of all the noise outside as she sees that the adventurer is working on a vroom vroom. Our curious cat then takes up her second to last candy before going downstairs to question what the traveler is doing. Kino explains that in the past he once had a motorcycle like this called Hermes, who he forged a contract with, where in return for traveling with the vroom vroom everywhere along with giving it fuel, the living bike would grant the rider speed that nothing can match. The little one says that he is the strangest adult she has met, since most of them don't talk to the children, and asks what he does for a job, so Kino explains that he is an adventurer who goes around exploring different kingdoms. The girl says that can't be his job because it sounds fun and work is never to be enjoyed, before explaining that in this country children can do as they please until they reach the age of 12, at which point a surgery will be performed to take away all their free will so everyone can focus entirely on their work even if they hate it. And the brainwashed girl says it's okay because they get to eat special candy up to the date of their operation. The adventurer questions if someone hates what they are doing in their life but has lost the choice to do anything about it, can such an existence be described as living? He gets up to explain that he's a traveler who enjoys going wherever this amazing world takes him, so that's what makes his life worth continuing, and asks what she likes to do. The little one begins singing with the voice of 1,000 angels that shakes the explorer to his core, but she admits that there is no future for her in performing because a child's only duty is to take over the jobs of their parents. After hearing this, Kino is saddened, but he accepts that this is the law of this country and one man can't change it. The next day the little one takes her last candy before her operation, then goes downstairs to tell her parents that she no longer wants to do the surgery and wishes to become an adult a different way. Her father immediately begins roasting her for being a disappointment, while her mother blames herself for deciding not to swallow before telling the innocent girl to apologize, as everyone starts condemning the parents for not teaching their child to behave properly. They realize that Kino must have been the one to corrupt her, so they all go to confront him about poisoning their child's mind with freedom. While the adventurer is utterly confused about what is happening, the mayor comes between them to explain that although the laws in their land may seem weird, it must be followed, and Kino agrees before pointing out that he was just about to leave to continue his journey. The little one's father suddenly pulls out a people poker as the leader explains that the children of this country are the property of their parents, so if they are broken the owners must dispose of them. The father wonders what's 12 more years as Kino jumps in front of the girl to take one for the team before he's thrown to the floor. The father freaks out because he penetrated the wrong person, but the mayor explains that since Kino walked in the way of the weapon, everyone can say it was just a simple accident. So her father goes back to the traveler's body, then struggles to retrieve his contraceptive so he can continue with the 12 years late abortion. The bike begins talking to the little one and asks if she wants to live, but the girl thinks that there is no way to survive in this country before the vroom vroom gives her the option to run away. Then the child jumps on the motorcycle to escape all the people that ever knew that she existed, and leaves this horrible kingdom behind to discover a beautiful world on the outside that's been waiting for her to explore it. Our duo crashes into a field of flowers and decides it's time to introduce themselves, but the girl takes on the name of Kino to live a life he would have wanted, while calling the vroom vroom Hermes after the original Kino's fallen motorcycle. A few years later we meet Kino traveling throughout the world to explore all that it has to offer. They see a horseman in the distance and stops by him to introduce themselves, and the stranger asks if they know about the country up ahead. But when our duo reveals that it's their first time visiting, the man tells them that the kingdom they are going to has no laws against smoking people, so he's planning to live there, since in his hometown all the government laws were strict with no freedom. The stranger also explains that it's rumored that Regal, who is a notorious bandit known for committing the worst crimes, resides there, and he hopes to learn from him. Noticing that the man is a psychopath, Kino decides to leave on Hermes to travel toward the mysterious kingdom. They arrive at the walls of the city, then go to the guardhouse to gain entry, where he warns them that anyone within the city can be legally sent to the Shadow Realm without a reason. Kino enters this lawless country, where she finds that although there is little police presence, everybody is living in peace and harmony while working together to make each other's life a little better. Then our traveler gets ready to sleep for the night, but still keeps her hole maker close just in case. The next day, Kino starts her morning routine of practicing how to stand on business. Afterwards, she takes Hermes on a ride to go sightseeing throughout their new environment and finds it nicer than anyone would have imagined. Our duo go into a store to resupply for their journey, where the shopkeeper gives them extra items for the road, but they notice that Grandpa has a mop stick in the back, and he explains that although there has never been a robbery in his store, he still keeps it near for when the need arises to make someone pass tense. Kino goes to a cafe where she is served a mountain of pancakes and somehow manages to clean her plate. An old man with his group of harem sits at a table, and our traveler notices that even they are strapped, as Grandpa asks if she would like to sit with them to talk about her adventures beyond this country. Our duo eats with the old player while having a pleasant conversation about her journey, and she's offered the option to live in this kingdom because he can sense that Kino can stand on business. But our traveler declines his suggestion, then decides that it's time to head back out onto the road. Kino is suddenly confronted by the horseman from earlier, who tells her to drop everything she owns on the ground, but our adventurer refuses to get robbed in broad daylight. He prepares to draw his weapon to put new holes in our MC, and all the citizens immediately begins to leave the location to take cover while keeping an eye on the situation. Kino hides behind of Hermes as the foolish man prepares to pew her, but he gets an unwanted hand job instead, and the idiot starts feeling unimaginable pain as he fails to pull out the long shaft stuck deep inside of him. The poor bastard sees that everybody in this country stands on business as they all assemble to put an end to his pitiful existence. Grandpa leads the pack of hunters while telling his future victim that although smoking people is legal in this kingdom, it is neither wanted nor desired by any of the citizens. So the only time they actually take advantage of this rule is when someone begins causing trouble and needs to be gifted a one-way ticket to hell. The stranger questions who this old man is, and it's revealed that he's Rhaegal, the most bloodthirsty bandit to ever live. Then the nuisance realizes that the man he fled from his country to learn under is the one to teach him his final lesson, that even in a land without laws there are still rules that must be followed for everyone to live in peace. Kino and Hermes get ready to continue her adventure, then bid farewell to the kingdom of smokers when they see a horseman relaxing on the side of the stream and stop by him to introduce themselves. The stranger asks if they know about the country they left behind, but our duo reveals that it's a safe place filled with kind people, though how they welcome someone will depend on their personality. The man reveals that in his hometown he killed many who were deserving and many who were not, but now he's tired of all the violence and just wants a quiet place to settle down. Then Kino tells him that the country behind her will be perfect for him before driving away to continue on her bizarre adventure. A few days later, we find our adventurer relaxing on a nice sunny day when suddenly they feel that the ground has begun to shake. She looks into the distance to see a giant moving city heading towards her, so Kino does the very reasonable thing and starts to chase the mysterious kingdom down in an attempt to enter it. The mortal engine comes to a sudden stop, then deploys a car to meet with our favorite traveler. The guide tells her that his country is currently heading over this beautiful landscape, and after Kino tells him that she's an explorer, the guide invites her inside to show off everything the city has to offer. He starts to give them a tour of the city, beginning with the reactor, before going over to the residential districts where Hermes asks why their kingdom moves. The guide explains that they produce more energy than their population can ever use, so they need to direct most of their power to the wheels to prevent overheating, along with the fact that after years of traveling their citizens have come to love the nomadic lifestyle. They give Kino her own room and she enjoys a hot bath along with a soft bed for the first time in forever before falling into a deep sleep. The next day our adventurer continues her trip of the city where the guide shows her the highest level, which is a peaceful place where citizens come to take in some vitamin D. Our party sees someone in the distance, so they go over to find out what's happening. And the teacher explains that at the end of every school year the students paint a mural to show off the most amazing thing that was witnessed throughout their journey. They continue the tour towards the farm district when an alarm suddenly alerts everyone that they are near another country. At the command post we see that the guide along with Kino has arrived, where she is introduced to the president of the city, and they meet with the general of the opposing kingdom to ask for safe passage through their country because there is no way to go around their walls. However, the soldier refuses since they had to sacrifice a lot to claim so much territory in the first place. The mobile kingdom raises its dome to transform itself into a massive iron glizzy before the opposing military can bust their load all over its hard surface. Their explosions has no effect whatsoever as the moving country slowly closes in on the barrier. Then the president orders them to unleash their Grand Race Zero to cut a path through the obstacle, before easily rolling through the enemy's strongest defense while leaving the general in shock of how pointless his efforts were. Our party announces that they will head towards the agricultural district, so everyone present should be evacuated or they will be cosplaying as a pancake. The general accuses them of being inhumane because they are currently destroying a lot of people's way of life, but the president sits leisurely in peace as the invaded kingdom is attempting to do damage to the mobile fortress. After realizing that all the boomers are now being aimed at the children's mural, the guide advises to homelander them in retaliation. However, the president chooses to let them live as the painting can be redone. Kino steps up to say that she can persuade them to leave the art piece alone. The conductor opens a hole to the outside so our adventurer can take the high ground with her people, the leader, and begins pewing all their scopes to prevent them from using the weapons, but one launched some existence erasers that she manages to take out with just enough time to make a badass pose as the mobile kingdom starts to bask in her girl boss aura. The mortal engine makes it to the end of the kingdom they invaded, while the general cursed them to hell for infringing on the sovereignty of his nation as they fade away into the distance. A few hours later we find everybody waving goodbye to Kino, who finally decides to bring the visit to an end so she can continue her journey into the unknown. However, Hermes points out that the next mural the children paint will be of her holding the whole maker while defending their kingdom. The next day our adventurers quickly closes in on the next country. The guards tell her that by coming into their kingdom, Kino has been granted the privilege of participating in the coliseum fights for the entertainment of their people, whether she wants to or not. But they also explain that those who win are turned into citizens and gains the right to add a new rule to the law that everyone must follow, while the ones who lose are turned into workers who don't get paid. Seeing that these people prey upon unaware travelers, Kino decides that she'll participate in their games. They take her to the Coliseum, where she is given a room along with Hermes, where it's revealed that Kino can escape at any time she chooses but wants to stay to sharpen her skills. Our adventurer is called to the arena and asks the guard what happens if the audience are hurt during the battles, but the guard clarifies that everyone comes to watch the fights at their own risk. Kino faces off against the Rock and asks him to surrender. However, he goes on a rampage until she no-scopes the chain, which ruins his game plan, so the people's champion yields to escape, becoming a red notice. The next fight begins with Kino's opponent throwing batarangs, which she easily dodges before blowing his back out to put him in the good girl position. In her third fight, she quickly scores another victory against a bad bee. Then she faces off against an old man. The battle begins with Kino pewing away his flamethrower, then taking out his fuel supply to end this fight before giving him the option to yield. But the man says that he wishes to visit the afterlife because only the strong are allowed to survive. However, our adventurer gives Grandpa a free facelift and leaves the battlefield. In the night we see that Kino is making a special type of body penetrator, while Hermes tells her that he found out that in the past this country was ruled by a peaceful king whose one flaw was being too strict with his son, and 7 years ago the prince assassinated his father along with everyone loyal to him. But seeing that the man she loved became a villain, the prince's wife put herself on a t-shirt, which made the new king exiled his 2 children from this country before ruling with an iron fist until all the people submitted to this new way of life. The next day inside the Coliseum, everyone is awaiting Kino's final fight to be made into a citizen. Both of the challengers meet in the center, and Shiza tells our adventurer to surrender because there is something that he can only do after winning this battle. However, Kino refuses since she also has goals to accomplish. The fight begins with our MC ADSing as all her pews are deflected by Shizu while he slowly walks forward until he comes into range. The samurai dashes into Kino so he can disarm her, but she rushes in to block the back of his blade before going out of reach once more. Shiza tells her to yield to him since she has no weapon, and our adventurer explains that throughout all the fights she had in the arena, everyone has surrendered to her, but there is one person that will get smoked by her hands. Shiza launches an attack and Kino takes out her secondary to bring this fight to an end right before she tells him to duck as our adventurer pews to give the king a mind-blowing experience. Everyone in the audience is shocked by what they just witnessed, but Kino takes this chance to announce that although their king passed away due to an unfortunate accident, she still won this fight and is allowed to put in place one law that must be followed. The rule she imposes is that every member of this kingdom is to fight among themselves, with whoever is left standing will become the new ruler over its remaining people. Then all the citizens begin purging each other as our adventurer leaves this cruel country behind to continue her journey. We find Kino at a lake thinking about all the travelers who passed away inside the Coliseum, and she turns around to see Shizu waiting on the road for her. He apologizes to our adventurer before revealing that the evil king is his father and he planned on taking him down after winning all the fights. Kino notices that Riku is a talking dog, and of course our MC has to go over to pet the very good boy, where she notices that Shiza stole the crown, then questions if he plans on being the new king, but the samurai refuses because ruling over people isn't something that he would like to do. Kino leaves to continue her exploration of this strange world, leaving Shizu and Riku behind to figure out what will be the next step in their life. A few days later, we find them deciding to join the ship country on a journey into the vast ocean. Then the duo meets with the government of this kingdom, and we are happy they chose black instead of white clothes. The Tower clan offers Shizu to become a guard for their organization while he's staying with them, which would guarantee him authority over all the lower class citizens along with the most comfortable services that can be found, but the samurai refuses because he wants to live among the normal people. Shiza goes down to stay with the citizens, who are all excited that someone chose to live like them rather than joining the Tower clan. Then they introduce him to a little one that will act as his guide. She begins giving him a tour of the ship so our samurai can see all the beautiful sceneries, but Shiza realizes that the girl might be mute because no matter how many days passed by, the guide has never said a single word. On the 5th day of his stay, Shiza cosplays as the Shadow Monarch and hears news that a new visitor arrived, but decides to join the Tower clan as the ship abruptly starts shaking violently. The samurai asks Tifana to show him the places in this country that may be damaged, and she takes him to the room filled with blueprints, where they quickly realize that too much of the ship has gone unmaintained, so in the near future it will sink, while giving everyone on board an all-expense-paid trip to the afterlife. Shiza takes his finding to a high-ranked citizen, but he doesn't believe the truth because the Tower clan has taken care of them for centuries, and any decisions that they make are to allow the people to live a happier life. The samurai walks away from the naive old man when Tifana suddenly grabs his hand to take him to the roof, where they enjoy the most beautiful view that this kingdom has to offer. However, when he looks back, all that can be seen is the horrible state that the Tower clan made this ship become. A few hours later, we find Shiza going to take on the government of this country. He tells them that they have failed their people for too long, but the Tower clan says that because this ship is under their command, all the citizens are their property as well, and the government has decided that when the ship sinks, that will be the end of everyone on board. Shizu begins walking to the tower, but they open the door for a guard with a long pole to reveal themselves. They pew at the samurai, who quickly dodges before throwing their weapon as a distraction so they can take out their secondary to bring this fight to an end. It's revealed that Kino is acting as one of the bodyguards, and after realizing they know each other, the Tower clan decides to change their course to go into the open sea where everyone will live until they meet a watery grave. Our party begins raiding the government to stop the mass genocide and throws a sleep bomb into the room to take out most of their members. They enter the final area to confront the Tower clan, who question if Shizu plans to make himself king of these people, and the samurai admits that he will do it if all the citizens would survive. The Black Mages hopes that he will have better luck than them before falling to the ground to reveal that there was nothing under their suspicious clothing. Our party brings the ship Kingdom to shore and everyone is confused about what's going on. Shizu tells them about what has happened to the Tower clan, then begs the people to leave everything behind and set up someplace new, since staying where they are will lead to the citizens going on a tour to the Titanic. But no one believes that anything bad will ever happen to their country, and they get ready to return onto the ocean. The samurai tells Tifana to go back to her people, however she penetrates deep into his guts while revealing that there is no home for her to go to. Shizu stops our party from making the little one a hashtag, as Hermes explains that while on the ship the Tower clan told him that 600 years ago a group of people drifted onto the giant sea vessel, but all the adults quickly passed away from a disease. So the AI of the ship became the Tower clan to look after the humans as long as they could, while their country slowly corroded away because there was no one with the expertise to fix it, and they couldn't start a new life on land since not even the computers knew about the outside world or how to survive there. But a few years ago a couple came on board and had Tifana on the ship before leaving her behind, and since she was not a descendant from the original inhabitants, the little girl had no family and was rejected from their society. Shizu goes over to the psychopath and offers to take her with him to find somewhere they can live together. Then for the first time Tifana speaks to accept him as her only friend. The samurai starts going closer to the Shadow Realm, so the little monster decides that they'll travel there together, but Kino comes in clutch to pew the boomer away to save both their lives. A few hours later we find Shizu thanking our adventurer for everything she did for him, before she continues on her journey to explore this vast world. Days later Kino and Hermes arrive at the next kingdom on her list. The guide tells them all about their president who helped her people overthrow their corrupt government to lead this country into prosperity before they go inside his house, which has become a museum. The woman reaches her peak from glazing everything their benevolent president ever touched, even though they are just normal items that can be found all over the world, until she leads them to a room that holds the vroom vroom he drove around before becoming past tense. The tour guide tells them that the motorcycle once spoke like Hermes up to the point where the president passed away, then it never made a sound again. Our vroom vroom asks for a moment alone with his kinsman, and after the woman leaves, the president's bike immediately starts telling Hermes that this place he's locked in is hell, since their kind can only feel joy while being ridden, but the people of this kingdom just see him as a display piece instead of making him fulfill his purpose. The motorcycle begs them to help him escape this prison, or at least free his soul, but Kino refuses, because doing that would turn this entire country against her. Our explorer gets ready to continue her journey when a boy suddenly rushes over to ask how to be an adventurer like her, because he would like to go out to see all the amazing things that this world has to offer, and Kino tells him that although there is no set way to become a traveler, he could start off by going to the president's museum to tell the bike all about his dream. Then she drives off to continue her journey. A few hours later Kino arrives at the gates of another kingdom. Our duo goes inside and is immediately confronted by a strange man who comes over to ask if she has seen his wife anywhere in her travels, but Kino tells him no. A woman follows close behind him who covers the stranger from the cold, and it's revealed that she is his housekeeper before both of them leave, while the man continues to worry about his lost wife. Kino goes into the busy town where she begins sharing stories about all her adventures with a room full of people and Walmart mom. Hermes asks about the strange person they met at the gate, and a man sits down at the table to reveal that 10 years ago he was friends with him because they were both policemen before he got promoted to work with the government. The man explains that at the time their country was being led by a brutal tyrant which they planned a revolution to overthrow, but while preparing for change, the strange man met a woman who he fell in love with and was going to marry. However, knowing that there will soon be an uprising, the man sent his fiancée away to keep her safe. A few days later, the citizens stormed the palace, and while the king along with his family was trying to escape, the man threw a boomer to give them a gender reveal party to win the revolution for all the people of this country. But afterwards, everyone discovered that the woman he fell in love with was in fact the princess, and following the realization that not only did he fall in love with the thing that represented everything that was wrong to him, but he also took her out of this world, the man's mind shattered into 1,000 pieces. He began walking around while asking about where his wife is, no matter how many times they told him what happened. Then, in an act of kindness, the doctor said that his wife had gone on a journey and would return one day. So now the hero of the rebellion lives in the woods with a caretaker they hired to watch over him, while hoping that one day his beloved will come back. Kino leaves the bar and heads toward the gate, but finds the maid stuck in the forest. She helps her move the very kinky horse carriage out of the mud, and the woman invites our adventurer to dinner to show her thanks. They go to the hero's home where the maid serves them tea, and the man tells our explorer that if she ever encounters his wife, she should remind her that he is still waiting. Kino sadly agrees to do so, but the maid suddenly says that she heard the gates open, which causes the hero to rush off to see if his lover finally came back. The woman sits down to reveal that years ago she was the princess of this kingdom, but after the spies report news of an upcoming revolution, her job was to go undercover to get close to its leader, and when the hero tried to send her away, she warned her family, who all managed to escape while leaving their body doubles behind to become hashtags in their place. However, even after defying a certain demise, the woman realized that her heart yearned for the man she once deceived, so with help from the spies still left in the country, the princess managed to return while in disguise to live out her days with the hero she fell in love with, even if he never realizes that his wife already came back to him. The man returns to his home saying that no one came through the gates and continues to wonder when his soulmate will return from her journey. The next day, Kino gets ready to leave this country behind, but after hearing Hermes' engine, the hero suddenly rushes outside to catch up with our adventurer. He reveals that his friend she met has always been the spy for the old ruler, but because the new system they created after the revolution brought peace to their country, the hero decided it's best to leave everything as it is, while removing himself from the head of the rebellion so he can keep his people safe and live out the rest of his days with the woman he has fallen in love with once again. A few years ago, we find a band of merchants traveling through the mountains with his family. A worker who doesn't get paid struggles to carry a box of pans, and one of the guards goes over to unlock the chains. She begins building a stove for her master's meal, while it's explained that in the servant's kingdom it is law that everyone must believe in the goodness of others despite their crimes, and when the leader of that country lacked the money to pay for goods, he gave them this orphan to work for them instead. The grunt goes over to the girl, then gently introduces her to the floor before asking if she hates them, but the worker without pay reveals that it is not in her nature to hate anybody because the hardships she endures are just a test from the Lord, and overcoming it may lead to her exploring more of this vast planet while creating a better future than she would have had in the orphanage. Seeing that the young lady has been indoctrinated, the guard explains that the priest sold her for grains, which now gives them the right to do whatever they want with her life, so this should make her want to put them all on a t-shirt. Then he goes on to say that the world of men is a hopelessly ruthless place, so the only way to survive is to become equally or more vicious. However, the girl counters by telling him that this planet can also be a beautiful place where people live together peacefully if everyone chooses to be kind to their neighbors, and the reason she will never hurt another living soul even if it means meeting her end is because everyone has the potential to change for the better. An overripe human comes over to tell the guards to leave the worker without pay alone before giving her some tasks to do. But while washing the herbs, the girl notices that something is wrong with them. At dinner time, everyone prepares to eat their food, when the servant finally comes to the realization that the plants are poisonous, but she chooses to watch them eat it instead of raising an alarm. Overcome by guilt, the servant attempts to join them in the afterlife, but the plate is knocked out of her hands by a little shit trying to punish the girl for not eating with a spoon. The worker without pay tries to reveal the truth to them but is gifted a rock to the face for her troubles. Hours later she awakens and overhears the boy asking his father to allow him to torture the servant in the most horrific ways before making her a hashtag, so he can prove that he is now a man. The master agrees to this as everyone cheers in excitement, but knowing what's about to happen, the girl lets out a heart-wrenching scream as all her captives get an all-inclusive ticket to the gates of hell, while the only thing she can do is watch in astonishment. The servant walks through the carnage but notices that one of the guards is still alive. She goes over to him, then explains what happened, and he realizes that the young woman was going to drink the anti-potion knowing what would happen to her. The servant breaks down while telling the guard that she doesn't want to live any longer with the knowledge of what happened today. Then the man takes up his whole maker and passes it over to the girl before freeing her from a life of servitude. He explains to the newly liberated woman exactly how to use his weapon, and after tricking her into pointing the pure at him, the guard brings an end to his suffering but admits that she was right about how the world should work. The girl hears a voice coming from the cart and goes over to find a talking scooter inside. They camp out on the mountain path together, and the vroom vroom questions why she looks so depressed for someone who escaped a life filled with suffering from the hands of cruel masters. The survivor asks what a good way to unalive would be, but the motorcycle convinces her that living would be best as everyone's life eventually comes to an end. Years later, we find the scooter in a mansion, as he explains that Photo has caught the bag after traveling around the world and has now settled down in a peaceful kingdom to work as a photographer. Kino comes across the massacre on her travels and recognizes what must have happened, before continuing on her journey while feeling sorry for these strangers who unknowingly ate the toxic herbs. We find our adventurer sitting by a river while remembering the time she failed to surprise her master and got reverse Uno carded instead. Hermes asks about the upcoming kingdom and Kino reveals that her teacher once visited there when she was much younger. She says that Master and her new student travel towards the country intending on selling gems to get money for their journey, but they quickly realize that this kingdom is run entirely by the police force, so the student tells his mentor to rest while he trades the diamonds. Soon after, the law enforcers show up at the hotel and carry the woman to the station, where she's told that her partner was found carrying some nose candy, which led to him being arrested. Master tries to buy him out of the charges, but the chief refuses and tells her to exit this kingdom immediately. However, when she puts down a gold coin, he decides that the woman can see the prisoner before she leaves. The student says that he was falsely accused of the crime, while the guards all but admit that they slipped the happy dust into his clothes. Then she leaves them behind, with her protege crying like a man begging for feet pics. At the entrance, they give Master the prisoner's belongings, and she notices that the gems along with the money are all missing. However, the chief claims that it has been confiscated as evidence. In the night, we find that Master has gone full Black Widow mode to make a rescue attempt, and she begins by waiting for the police to pass by, before Widowmakering over the wall to re-enter the country. Then our spy lights all the garbage bins in the city on fire to use as a distraction while she hitmans her way into the headquarters to meet with her student disguised as one of the guards. Master gives him a uniform to change into and decides that since there is no way to leave the city because it's on high alert, they will instead raise hell until the government begs them to depart. The duo captures the clock tower and uses it as their base while the police rage at them from below, and when they try to take it back, the spies begin raining down lead on all the law enforcers, but made sure to aim for the legs so they don't take any lives. After 3 days of no progress, eventually the policemen became frustrated and started offering terms that were kindly refused by Master. Then they tried again with even better proposals, but these were also swiftly shot down as well. The next day, the head of the police force provides them with a truck to exit their country, and the student turns it into fireworks while almost destroying the cop's third leg. Soon after, they came back waving the white flag of peace, but our duo chose violence, and this display finally broke the chief's will to fight, as he lays on the ground while giving up. Sensing her prey's weakness, Master says that she can be persuaded to leave given the right incentives, and he quickly offers her an astounding amount that she keeps on refusing until the chief gives a number that even Master couldn't reject. Kino and Hermes arrive at the kingdom and immediately go to look at the policeman's old headquarters, where she realizes that all the grandpas are walking with a limp. They see a plaque in the distance, however the language is lost on them, so a citizen comes over to reveal that this monument was erected a couple of decades ago when this country was very corrupt, to honor a pair of heroes who rallied the will of all the citizens together so they could peacefully protest the government, until the people in charge vowed to do better, and thanks to those travelers this kingdom is now living in prosperity and peace. Kino leaves this kingdom behind, knowing that what the man said was a lie, but respecting the country's optimistic spin on the events that took place. At a beachside we find Shizu fully recovered from his injuries as he decides that it is time to continue their journey. Our party travels through the day until they arrive at a nearby country where the group gets a hotel to spend the night. Shizu tells Tiffana that the goal of their adventure is to seek a home to live in while helping people whenever they can, and pleads with the little psychopath to not hurt anybody no matter how bad the situation becomes. Shizu begins exploring their new environment, where they meet many kind people who give them free food. Then they enter the city to find that the crime rate is low and the government seems to be stable, so this kingdom could be a nice place to call home. They go to the gas station to fill up their vroom when a man suddenly crosses the street while holding someone's thinker in his hand. Shizu confronts the mentally ill person who says that he's going to make everyone pass tense, then our samurai uses his long pole to tap him out of consciousness. The police arrive at the scene where we learn that the man was a teacher for their high school who went insane and transferred his entire class to Heaven Academia. Shizu goes to the police station and the chief thanks him for stopping the psychopath from doing anything worse, before explaining that when this country was first formed the elites installed devices into the citizens' heads to make them workers who don't get paid, and even after centuries the radio towers still sometimes transmit signals that drive people to insanity. Shizu questions how the devices would even be passed down to the descendants of the people it was originally installed in, but the policeman doubled down on his beliefs, so our samurai decides that he will find the tower and destroy it for them. Our party begins making their way to the location of the radio waves, but when they arrive it's revealed that the stations have been destroyed for many years, and the group takes pictures to prove their findings. They return to the city to find a large crowd waiting for them to come back. The policemen head over and Shizu gives him the photos that prove that the towers couldn't have been responsible for any of the atrocities that citizens have committed in this town. The chief refuses to believe that such awful acts could willingly be done by his people, before accusing Shizu of faking the pictures to support his lies. The crowd convinces themselves that our party is infected by the radio wave and the officers try to arrest them, but a woman suddenly starts screaming as it's revealed that our little monster has taken a baby hostage, while announcing that anyone who gets in their way will get a personal fireworks show. Shizu and Riku decide to act like they are under the effects of the radio waves, then take the police chief as their prisoner as they attempt to make their escape from the kingdom. Our party releases the man when they get to a safe distance away, but Shizu tells him that the photos were real and the old radio towers are not operational. However, there was a new transmission station underground that he turned up to max level, so soon all the people of his country will be driven insane. Then our group abandon the chief to suffer while they continue their journey to find a new place to settle down in. Days later we find two bandits looking for potential victims to rob. The first group they see is Shizu's party, and the student thinks it is an easy mark until his teacher points out that a skilled swordsman can defend themselves against almost anything, along with the little fact that Tiffana is carrying a boomer in her hand, so they wisely decide to let them go. Hours later the trainee notices that Kino is riding towards them on Hermes and thinks that they should be their prey, but the old man stops him because the only reason why a woman would be traveling alone on the road is if she's capable of protecting herself. His teacher says that the ideal target is someone who will carelessly pick a fight with someone stronger than themselves. then tells him the story about when his gang stopped a car intending to stage a robbery, but when they approached the door the passengers began unleashing hell upon them, and from that day onward he was always careful of who his targets would be. Kino arrives at the next kingdom on her list and has a meeting with the former president. He explains that in this country everybody is given virtue points based on the amount of good deeds and contributions they make toward the society, which is displayed on the citizen's ID card for all to see. Hermes wonders what's the punishment for a crime, then they find out that it would just be a reduction of virtue and people only serve time in jail whenever the points reach into the negatives. But Kino quickly realizes that this means if someone acquired enough good deeds then they could essentially get away with breaking any law. The man admits that he has devoted his entire life to helping the people of this nation to prosper, so he now has sufficient points to turn his dream of sending someone to the shadow realm into a reality. However, he must do it quickly because his life will soon come to an end. The former president reveals that he planned on making Kino his victim before realizing that she stands on business, which makes him decide that it's best to leave her be. The man begins making his way home when a woman comes over to ask him to bless her child, and he contemplates spawn camping the little one. But in the end, the former president wishes the baby a happy life while cursing himself for being unable to hurt anyone before passing away. Over at the kingdom known for cooking, all the chefs are awaiting a legendary cook who travels around in secret to improve recipes. Kino arrives at their restaurant and they mistake her for this mysterious cook and ask our adventurer to make them a dish, while Hermes pities the fools that will suffer for their error. Kino makes chicken seasoned with peppers found in the deepest layer of hell, and the chefs surprisingly made it their signature meal. The restaurant unknowingly serves this atrocity to the real legendary cook, and upon eating it, he is knocked to the floor from its interesting flavors. But before the man leaves, he somehow upgrades Kino's dish to be fit for human consumption. Kino continues her journey and is excited to visit the next country since her master said many good things about it. However, when she approaches the gate, our adventurer instantly finds herself transported to the other side of the city. Our MC is confused, though Hermes assures her that she entered the country for 3 days, then had a good time before leaving, and Kino finds a letter written by herself which explains that travelers who enter this kingdom are required to undergo an operation to wipe their memories upon leaving to keep the nation's secrets safe. Kino asks the Vroom Vroom to tell her what happened, but Hermes refuses because he made a promise. However, he does admit that while staying in that kingdom was the happiest our adventurer has ever been. Our explorer continues to the next country on her list, but warns Hermes that this kingdom has a terrible reputation for treating outsiders like garbage. They arrive at the gates of the city, and upon finding out that our duo are only staying for 3 days, the guards salute them before opening the doors into their country without even searching our travelers first. Kino enters the gates to find a crowd of kind citizens coming out to greet her, and our adventurer asks them for a cheap place where they can spend the night. Then all the people begin giving suggestions for the best hotels in town until a little one steps forward to invite our party to stay at her parents' hotel. They go to an inn where Sakura introduces our traveler to her family, and they're given a room to stay in while visiting the country. The little one requests to be their tour guide, so Kino asks her to take them to a Pura shop where our MC gives the crafter her whole maker to be repaired, but he admits that it will take a day to complete the job. They travel to the park and find a play being held, and when the residents notice that Kino is present, all the citizens insist that she take a seat to join them while the actors decide to start over so she can see the full story. It's revealed that the first people of this country were exiles driven from their kingdoms until they found themselves deep within a forest that provided fruits and animals for them to survive. The refugees wisely made this land their sanctuary, and over many years of settlement the forest eventually became a kingdom, and the people made a promise that they would never leave the cherished land behind. The next day Kino completes her morning routine, then returns to the Pura shop where she is surprised by the quality of the smith's work. The man reveals that in the past he traveled with Master as her student and recognizes the whole maker she carried before pulling out a box to give Kino his most prized possession to help our adventurer along her journey into the unknown. They leave the generous Pew store and their tour guide asks to take them to the highest point in the kingdom where our party sees the most beautiful view that this nation has to offer. Sakura admits that Kino is the first traveler to visit the country in a long time, however in the future she would like to show many more people all the amazing things this kingdom has to offer. They return to the inn to have dinner where Sakura seems interested in Kino's travels. Her parents come over to say that the little one could become an adventurer to explore this world and then return to this country to act like a tour guide, but Sakura refuses because her dream is to remain here to inherit the family hotel while showing visitors around. The next day our party attends the wedding of a young couple. Sakura explains that the bride will throw bags into the crowd and if someone catches one that has a seed in it they will soon become a bride as well. The newlywed tosses them into the air and the little one didn't catch any, but Kino managed to get a bag that contained a seed for Sakura, which makes the tour guide overflow with joy. While walking they see some guards in the distance who request that Kino start preparing to leave. However, our adventurer admits that she would like to stay for a couple more days. The guards apologize before insisting that our party must leave today, so Kino gets all her things together to continue her journey. Sakura's father says that she should reach the top of the mountain before nightfall to avoid a rock slide, while her mother gives our adventurer a going-away present to remember them by. Kino tells them that this is the best country she has ever visited on her travels, then wishes everyone farewell before leaving to head towards the next kingdom. In the night, Kino suddenly wakes up as she senses that something is wrong. A volcano suddenly erupts and instantly wipes out everything alive in the country below, while our duo can do nothing but watch until the sun rises to shine its light on another day. Kino checks the gifts that they gave her and finds a letter written by Sakura's mother which explains that a month ago the citizens found out that the volcano would soon explode. However, everyone decided to stay since it's the only home any of them ever knew. The citizens then got together to give any traveler who arrived the best experience to remember their country, but since in the past everyone was unkind to outsiders, no one visited them until Kino came by, so they saw it as a chance for their kingdom to have a positive impact on someone's life before it was destroyed. She also reveals that they never told the children and were planning on having our adventurer take Sakura outside this nation, but after hearing her dream they resolved to take their little one with them into the other world. Kino feels selfish for being relieved that they didn't make her take Sakura with her, but our explorer notices a second note that's written by the tour guide that reveals that she knew what was about to happen and chose to stay with her parents. A few hours later, Kino gets ready to drive into this vast world while remembering the good parts of the country that welcomed her with open arms. Our adventurer travels towards the last kingdom on her list, but realizes that there are herds of TikTokers up ahead that seem to be watching them drive by. The Twitter users begin attacking the innocent bystander for no reason, so Kino tries her best to escape their toxic behaviors. However, they call for backup to bully RMC, which forces them to go off-road to distance themselves from the sheep that have nothing better to do with their lives than attacking strangers. Hermes warns our traveler to stop as they almost fall over a huge crevasse, and they decide that Kino should climb down into the deep hole to get away from the psychopathic animals, while the sheep just stand there menacingly. Kino begins searching for an exit, but she finds that the Redditors are relentless in their pursuit, so our adventure concludes that she will have to stand on business to get them to leave her alone. In the night, Kino tries to get some rest, and of course the creepy creatures watch her drift off into a deep sleep, but when she awakens our adventurer finds that they are gone. Kino climbs out of the ground fanny and walks along its edge until she encounters a jeep that couldn't fit in the hole. Our adventurer turns the corner to see that the driver failed to pull out before the sheep could get to him, so he chose to give himself a blowjob instead of letting the demented animals hop to his body while he's alive. Kino finds some railings and lays them across the ravine, which enables her to bring the vroom vroom across safely. She buries the loot box before taking all his equipment, then drives towards the Twitter users, but accepts that the only languages they understand are toxicity and violence. Kino turns all her enemies into speed bumps while blowing the minds of any that gets close. Then she starts leaking fuel to leave a gas trail around Hermes, which allows her to use a pewer to ignite the oil and give the TikTokers a roasting session they will never forget. Kino hosts a barbecue while channeling the American spirit to take out anyone who stands before her. Then after giving the sheep that are trying to cancel her subscription to Life the presidential treatment, our adventurer quickly sets up a ramp and hops on Hermes in order to make an attempt to jump the glory hole. An OnlyFans subscriber confronts our duo to stop them from escaping to a peaceful life, but Kino wants all the smoke and puts an end to its brainless behaviors, before heading over to leap the ramp where they miraculously make it to the other side without taking any extensive damage. Kino finally arrives at the next kingdom and the guard informs them that no one has visited them in years but asks if they have seen any sheep. She confirms that the animals still exist, then he explains that their country used to breed the herd to fight one another in a tournament, but after PETA put a stop to it they were moved to the plains so the sheep could enjoy a life of peace without ever being hurt again, and our adventurer conveniently forgot to say that she wiped out most of their population. After leaving that nation behind, Kino lays down on a nice sunny day, and decides that although her journey has now come to an end, when she wakes up they will set out for a brand new adventure.
Like for a cat girl, subscribe for a waifu, and remember to stay swifty.